you are faced with this question of should you adopt the foster children in your home, here are a few things that I want to encourage you with and to consider prayerfully. First question to consider: are you and your spouse, if you're married, in complete unity and agreement over this decision? Either way, begin to pray together and pray individually for God to align your hearts and bring clarity to this decision. For some families, you're in this and you're like, I've known from day one that this is my child. This is an easy yes. Fantastic. For others, you're like, I'm just not sure. We need to consider all the factors. We need to kind of talk through some of this. That's okay. And for others, you're like, as much as I want to, I simply do not feel like I am this child's forever parent. Hey, friends, that's okay too. Take the time you need until you are in full agreement with your spouse and with the Lord. Do not feel pressured to give a yes or a no. Unity in your marriage, if you are married, is key to be able to live out this calling well, because the enemy is all over this and he wants to get into any kind of crack he can to start to break down and cause division and dissent in your home. So you and your spouse must be unified in your yes, unified in your parenting, and unified in your obedience to the Lord and how you move forward. Number one thing to consider. Number two, the best advice that we received when, Claudia, we were in your shoes, and for any friends who are walking through this right now, if you feel a check in your spirit, pause. Take all the time you need to prayerfully consider, and do not feel pressured to give an answer because of the system's timeline. There's all kinds of pressure coming, and they're going to want this and they're going to want that because their job is that congruent planning. They're trying to check that box on the paperwork, and I'm not trying to like make the caseworkers sound bad. They're just trying to do their jobs. But as foster parents and as adoptive parents, sometimes we're at the very bottom of the totem pole, if you know what I'm saying. Like, we are servants, we are called to serve in this way, but we are not without a voice, and we are still a part of the consideration as a whole. Does that make sense? So I want to encourage you in that the value of your voice and all of that, the state is not forever affected by the decision. Your family is. Your home life and your future is forever changed by your yes or by your no. So take your time. You are in control of your yes and your no. And I want to give you permission to stand in the authority of that truth. Okay. Number three, the children who are forever yours in your home are a top consideration. So if you already have other children in your home, whether biological or maybe they've been previously adopted, or maybe even other foster children in your home, they're a different case, a different biological family, not related to the case that you are working, they are still a top consideration because they have been given to you to steward and to consider how they have been and would be affected by a forever yes to a child in your care. Listen, by doing that, it doesn't make you bad, it makes you good parents. You have to consider all of the people and all of the factors involved, and the children in your home are at the top of that list, right underneath your marriage, okay? So don't feel pressured to make a decision based on tugging of your heartstrings. I would encourage you as parents, sit down with your kids individually and have age appropriate conversations about the foster siblings, how they feel about them being in your home, and what their feelings are about a permanent arrangement. You know, their insight may be the eye-opening moment that you need to determine the yes or the no, to give you that clarity. You know, the Lord uses prayer, he uses his word, and he uses other people to help us to come to determination of what we should say yes or no to. And so your children are a big part of that. So don't be shy about or feel guilty about asking them. It's not a bash session for the kids to just totally trash the situation or you or the siblings in their home or anything like that. It is an honest, heart to heart moment of connection saying, hey, what is your experience? How do you really feel about this? And what do you think if fill in the blank? I would encourage you to do that. Next, number 4, ask yourself, each other, and the Lord, are these children meant to be with us forever? or for just a season. Friends, as foster parents, as I said, this is a very unpredictable and very impermanent type of a calling that you are engaging with. And so sometimes your assignment for a specific child is just for a season, and that is okay. You are still a part of their story, even if you're not their forever story. Transitioning kids to their next place of care does not mean you have failed or that you have given up on them. God loves those children more than anyone, more than you or I ever could, and He already knows what their future holds. And so, one of the ways to look at it is don't stand in the way of them going to their forever. Okay. So, sometimes a no is releasing them for their intended permanency. Sometimes a no is a protection for your family of what may or may not be to come based on their trauma, their behaviors. And that's okay to think of it that way. Children in themselves they're not bad, but there are behaviors and certain things that could perpetrate within your home that could be unsafe. And so those are things to consider. And sometimes there are other families who are better equipped to fully devote themselves to those particular needs and behaviors and the recovery of that child that you're not able to do. That doesn't make you a failure. You don't have to be the end all be all solution to these children's problems. Sometimes you're there for a season, and sometimes you're there forever. And that is up to the Lord to guide you in all of that. But I want to give you that perspective. Lastly, where there is peace, the Lord is there. Where there is confusion, fear, or guilt, that's the enemy. Okay, so if God intends for you to be this child or these children's forever family, even if it's hard, there's going to be peace. Okay, if you do not have peace, listen to that. And God has a way of getting our attention when it comes to Him showing that His peace is not in a particular situation. When it is God's will, it does not mean that there's not going to be challenges. There will still be peace and even joy in the midst of that hard. But when He is trying to get our attention and say, this is not my will, I do not give my peace to this situation, we need to listen to that and we need to release any guilt that we have and any lies that we're believing that we failed the children or that we're bad foster parents, bad Christians, all the things. You need to dismiss those lies as from the enemy and know that sometimes a lack of peace and a no is from the Lord for your good and for the good of the children in your care.